Hello friends, a very important issue has come up in the Indian Express. The question is regarding the survey methodology being used in India and the data which is coming out of those surveys. So some articles have questioned this methodology and some other articles have appeared which are defending the Indian national surveys which are currently happening. So we will be analyzing that today. If you want to download the slide, the link is in the description box. If you want to listen to this video in Hindi, then you can go to our another channel, that is prepezee. The link is also available in the description box. So the context is that in Indian Express, many articles have appeared from the experts and the bureaucrats who are functioning with the government. They have said that the data which is being coming out of the surveys like National Family Health Survey, these data may not be that much reliable and therefore they are impeding the policy formulation in the government. So let's first analyze that what are the issues and what is happening, and then we will discuss that what are the articles saying. So let's first see National Family Health Survey. So we'll go into some detail of this. So see, basically surveys are like these: National Family Health Surveys there, NFHS, then periodic labor force surveys there, then NSS, that is National Sample Survey, which tells us about the household consumption expenditure is there. So for an example, we'll be taking National Family Health Survey. So till now, 5 surveys of NFHS have been done till now. The first one was undertaken in 92-93. Then second one was in 98. Then after a gap of 7 years, it happened in 2005. Then again, the next one is 2015, and the latest one, it started from 2019, but then due to Corona, it continued till 2021. This is the latest one. So these surveys, they are basically conducted by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare to get information about the population, the health and the nutrition status of the people living in India. This survey is available the data is available for the national data for India, and as well as for each state and union territory also it is available. The nodal agency for this exercise is International Institute for Population Sciences. So basically this survey is having 4 categories or schedules, as they are said in the survey. First is household, then women's, then man's, and then biomarker. So what is household? See, the household survey, basically it focuses on the availability of water, what is the level of sanitation or hygiene in a particular neighborhood or particular area, then what is the health insurance coverage in a state or at the national level, then disabilities, the land ownership status, number of deaths in the household, or even some trivial questions like the use and ownership of mosquito nets in the country or state. Then in women's survey, we are looking at the marriage related indicators, that how many women are married, what is the fertility rate, then how many women are using contraceptives, and then children's immunization also is covered here. Then again, the nutrition levels, reproductive health, sexual behavior also, then women's empowerment, even the issues related to domestic violence are covered in the women's. In men's also, there are marriage related the questions, then there is number of children, then contraception being used by men, fertility preferences, then again nutrition related or sexual behavior related questions, health issues, attitude towards gender roles, and such other questions are being asked. Biomarker is basically the exact health related indicators. For example, the measurement of height, measurement of weight, the hemoglobin levels in children as well as women. And when we are measuring hemoglobin levels in women, it is measured for 15 to 49 age groups. For men, it is 15 to 54 age groups. Then we are also measuring blood glucose levels. So these are the kind of data which are connected in these 4 schedules or categories of NFHS. Why we are getting this data? See, benefits are that this data is useful in setting the benchmarks. For example, let's say we are measuring the total fertility rate or infant mortality rate or maternal mortality rate. So currently we can say that this is the level, let's say 2.7. Now we are aiming for 2.1 as the total fertility rate, because this is the rate at which the replacement level is achieved. That is, the population neither grows, neither it decreases. So this is how the benchmarks are set in a particular population. Then we can examine the progress. For example, see, let's say that right now the poverty level is 30% in the country. So if we are not measuring the poverty levels, the surveys are not being conducted, then how will we know that 20% has decreased to 20 or 15%? Only through these surveys or these exercises or the studies can we come to know. These researches are very important to determine the progress of different policy or the schemes of the government. Then again, these surveys are important in identifying the vulnerable groups. For example, the children are vulnerable, old age personnel are vulnerable, women, the widows, the scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, the persons suffering with disabilities. All of these, we measure their indicators, that their health status, their education status, and then on the basis of that, we come up with the different schemes. So the schemes, they are formulated on the basis of what are the problems being identified and which are the vulnerable groups which should be targeted so that we can achieve a better standard of living for the citizens of India. So these are the benefits of these surveys. So on the basis of that, see, these are different surveys. For example, this is National Sample Survey, NSS, Household Consumption Expenditure. Basically, it helps in measuring different things like household consumption expenditure is there for services as well as for durables, that how much we are spending on acquiring durable items like fridge, AC and whatever, and then services, what are we paying for education, health and other services. Then also it also gives us an estimate of how many people are suffering from disabilities, or it also gives us that how many people went for domestic tourism in the particular duration which we are measuring. Then how many households have access to drinking water, what is the level of hygiene, or what is the general level of conditions of houses of the people. NFHS, as we just saw, it measures health indicators. It has 4 categories, as I just told you. Then there is periodic labor force survey, which tells us about the level of employment and unemployment in the country. So after we have understood these surveys, now let us understand what are the problems with the surveys. First problem is availability of data. See, the data is not available because, as you can see, the data should be available on the basis of that the experts, the statistical analysis which is required, the studies, the research which are done in the country, they require this data. But many times it is seen that on the website also, earlier the data was not published, only the results, the outcomes were published. But if the data is also available, then extrapolation can be done and the researches, they can be done on the basis of the data, and then ultimately they will help in policy formulation and other things. Then whatever analysis is being done, it should be transparent and it should be robust, so that, see, whenever we are sending people with the questions, the questionnaires are there, and the agents, they go and they ultimately ask these questions to the people living in the states or union territories or the households. So basically, when they are asking these questions, it is important that they know what to ask and how to mark the response. Not everyone will be giving you the exact answer. So for example, you cannot see a poor person, illiterate person, you cannot ask him that what is the how many calories you are consuming in each day. No one will know, no, at least not an illiterate rural person. Even very few people in urban areas only know. So you can just ask them that what did you have in previous 1 day or 2 days. Is that the average consumption you are having, and on the basis of that you can use the apps or applications to calculate this. So basically, the statistical analysis, it should be transparent, it should be robust. We should know that what is the methodology being used in that. Then data quality is supreme. So for example, see, when we are collecting this data should be absolutely robust. We cannot have a sample size of 1000 only for the whole of India. So data quality, it depends upon what are the level, see how many people we are surveying and what are the questions we are asking. So let's say even in this case also, when we are asking them about the calories, now we know the calories, but these calories, these are different for a person who is sitting in home and working on a computer, and a person who is going outside and working in his fields or farms. A person doing more physical exercises or physical activities will be requiring more calories. So these data, it should be, the quality should be supreme. Only then it will help in policy formulation. This we will also discuss in a few moments. Then the surveys are very infrequent. So we just saw that when NFHS was being conducted, first was 92, 93, then 98, then again 2005, and later on 2015. So you can see, first was after 6 years, then 7 years, then 10 years, and now after 4 years you are conducting. So there is no consistency and no one is able to trust such data which is not consistent. So the researchers cannot say that yes, the level of let's say education has increased from the first survey to second or to the third, because the level is not consistent. One you are measuring in 10 years gap and the second is within 4 years gap. So you cannot say that the population or the education levels, they are consistently improving, because there is no consistency in measuring also. Then there is demand for increasing sample size. As we just talked about it, that a population of 130 or 140 crore people, it needs a bigger sampler size. For example, we have to measure at least lakhs of households to come to a conclusion. Just on the basis of 1000 or 1500 households, we cannot arrive at a conclusion on the basis of this. So now when we have understood these surveys, let us understand what is being said in the articles. So basically, the first article, it was written by a bureaucrat, Shamika Ravi. She is an expert, and she says she gives two problems in the surveys which are being conducted. First, the problem which she says is underestimation. She says that census 2001, census 2001, it was having, it underestimated the rate of urbanization in India. So it said that urbanization is slow in India, but actually the urbanization was fast. In fact, it said that we will be achieving 32-33% urbanization in 2016. But this was achieved in 2011 census itself. So you can say that this census or these kind of surveys, they underestimate the rapidness or the progress of urbanization in the country. And if this is done, then what is happening? Then policy formulation or policy making, policy decisions, they are impeded. That is, the bureaucrats or government will not be able to formulate policy if they are not having access to good data. So now Pranab Sen, he is responding to this. He has written another article and he has responded to that. He says, in fact, he is very critical of this article of Shamika Ravi. He in fact goes on to use a very harsh language, and he writes that statisticians are really not all that stupid. So he says that whatever we are doing, we have good reasons for that. We have different objectives and therefore we are doing these things. So first of all, he says that to understand why this urbanization rate was underestimated, you have to understand that there are two types of towns which are being used in these surveys. First are statutory towns and then there are census towns. What is the difference? See, statutory towns are those towns which are recognized as urban areas legally by the state government. So state government says this area, we are declaring this as an urban area and we will be setting up a municipality or a Nagar Palika to govern this area. So these are legally recognized. Census towns, they are having urban characteristics, but they are not legally recognized by the state government as urban areas. So state government says that census towns, they are still rural areas and they are governed by the panchayats. What is a census town? See, if any area is meeting three conditions, then it is considered as a census town. What are the three conditions? First of all, the population should be greater than 4,000. Then the population density should be greater than 400 per square kilometer. And finally, more than 75% of the people should be engaged in non-farm occupation. That is, they should not be engaged in agriculture. They should not be engaged in agriculture. That is the definition of census towns. Now, the article, that is Pranab Sen, the author, he says that these census towns, for the purpose of these areas, they are considered as rural areas for the purpose of these surveys. And since they are recognized as such by the state government, we are in no position. We are government agency. We cannot say to that you are wrong. So whatever state government is doing, we have to respect that. It is the prerogative of state government to recognize which area is urban and which is rural, and we do not have any discretion in doing that. So he says that therefore we are doing this, and also he gives his justification. He says, see, statutory towns, when you are talking about statutory towns, these statutory towns, we know they are legally as well as they are urban, so everybody is seeing them as urban. But census towns, the census which is being conducted, that is census 2001, 2011, they are using it as an urban area. Why? Because they are prompting the government, the state government, to declare these are urban areas. They have said that these areas, census towns, they resemble urban towns more than the rural areas, and therefore they should be recognized as such. But for the purpose of our survey, we are not there to prompt the state government. We are only helping in government policy formulation. So we have to stick to the real facts, whatever is there. We should not be going by the definition which is being given in the census or what are being assumed. Till the time the government does not declare these as urban areas, we will be including them in rural areas. But he also gives one more corollary. He says that, okay, let's suppose that this census town is an urban area. So till now we were considering, these surveys are saying that this is a rural area, but Shamika Ravi, she is saying that no, this is an urban area. So if this is an urban area, and if we start classifying it in the cities, that means that the rural areas will be denied a major chunk of this area. And since this is urban area, rural areas will actually be looking more poorer. Rural areas will show that they are more poorer because the major developed area has been taken off. So in fact, Shamika Ravi, she is saying underestimating, but we are actually overestimating, because we are including the urban areas also, census towns also, in the rural areas. So this is the problem which he mentions in her assertion. Then we come to the second assertion. Second assertion of Shamika Ravi is that response rate. What is response rate? She says that as people become more wealthy, as their income levels increase, they stop responding to these surveys. This is well documented. So now she says that as the income level of a person increases, the response rate falls. Therefore, what will happen is more poor people are responding, and if more poor people are responding, what will happen? Ultimately, the picture which emerges is a more depressing one, because poor people are responding. They will say that we have less resources, we have less facilities, we have lesser income, we have more hardship, we have more issues and problems. And therefore, the picture which emerges or the outcome which comes from this survey is a pessimistic one. Now, the response of Pranav Sen here is that, see, this problem is there, and we acknowledge that this problem is there. The wealthy people, they do not reply to the questionnaires. But this is not India specific problem. This is prevalent globally. Everywhere it is there. In India, the non-response rate is 8%. That is, out of 100 questionnaires we send, we get reply to only 92. 8 are not responding. But the same rate in US is 30%. Out of 100, 30 people are not responding. So therefore, this is not an Indian problem. This is the global problem. And we can force them. This is actually the Collection of Statistics Act. Collection of Statistics Act, it gives us the power to enforce a person, forcefully say to a person that you have to reply. But in the face of such force or such compulsion, will the person actually be replying with truth or not? That is a different question. He might just say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Just like when we are agreeing to, whenever we are installing a software, we always agree to yes, we agree to all the terms and conditions without even reading them. So that is the same thing which this person can also do. And therefore, there is no solution to this. We'll just have to understand that, okay, this is the thing and we have to respect it. We can't do anything about it. Now, then we have understood these two. Now, there is a third article in the Indian Express which is saying that what is to be done in the future if we want to improve the statistics. The third article is also written by a bureaucrat, very respected person in the statistics community. He says that first of all, you have to recognize the problem. You have to say that yes, the problem exists. Only then you can improve it. If you keep on defending the present system, you cannot improve it. So he says that there are two ways of collecting data. Either you can go to the government that please collect data for us, or you can have sample data, that is you can do it yourself. So government or the administrative data, it is very cheap because you don't need to do anything. It is not time consuming, but it might not be perfect. because the government might be using the data to manipulate and show it in the favor of government work. That is, yes, we have worked so much and therefore data has improved. Sample data, on the other hand, since you are collecting it yourself, it will be more accurate. So he says that you have to make a trade-off. Either you go for a budget data or you have to go for sample data, which will be time consuming and expensive, but then it will be give you a true picture. Then he says the second is use big data. In fact, these two things are interrelated, investing in technology and use big data. He says that in the times of big data, artificial intelligence, machine language, you are still focusing on collecting data by hand. Why are you doing it? Use technology to improve your data. He says that there are many examples available. For example, the weather department, in fact, it was also suffering from this issue. The Ministry of Earth Sciences, its weather predictions were not good. Therefore, it invested in a supercomputer and it established National Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting in 1988. Since then, the supercomputer it is using, it is giving more accurate predictions, and therefore now the predictions that the El Nino will be coming, the monsoons will be this much, they are now much more accurate than the previous times. So you have to invest in it. Invest in the technology. There are other examples also, like GSTN is there, railway reservations, IRCTC has improved, UPI is there. So if you invest in technology, you will definitely reap the dividends. Then he says that you need to adopt a bottom-up approach. There, the first thing is that you have to strengthen the state's data collection, because you are extrapolating and using this data. And secondly, he says that there should be inter-agency coordination. That is, the agencies should be coordinating, and in fact, you should be also establishing some kind of commission which is looking into the data and which is looking into that the inter-agency coordination is good. In fact, he says that in fact this person is belonging to MP. He is actually working in MP, not belonging, but he is working in MP. So therefore, he says that we have established a permanent state statistical commission for improving and integrating the statistical data flow systems. So you have to adopt a bottom-up approach, look for the data collection at the bottom, and then ultimately your top data would improve incrementally. And then he says that you have to invest in capacity building. What is capacity building? That is upskilling of the workforce. That you have to see to it that their education is good. You have to see to it that their work experience is good. You have to look into the training which is happening on the job also. And you have to see to it that whatever best practices are being followed anywhere in the world or in the states, these workforce, they are exposed to the best practices. So these are the three articles which have come up on the data. They are very, very important for your mains examination, and they are, in fact, NFHS would be even important for your pre-examination also. So please listen to this very carefully and try to read more into it. And if you like this article, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.